So, as Nick Rekieta's Frank's motion has been dismissed, Viva Frei and Robert Barnes have not said anything regarding this. Nate the lawyer and Uncivil Law have been redeemed, or vindicated rather, from all the slanderous claims that their legal analysis were bad, from bad faith actors like Nick Rekieta and Robert Barnes.
There was no Frank's hearing. There is going to be no Frank's hearing.
I thought it was pretty weak sauce, and so I'm feeling a little bit vindicated myself because it's like, yeah, I thought this was pretty weak, and the judge seems to agree with me. It's pretty weak. So
yeah, we always say that. We always say that. We were being called idiots and fools and not understanding the law and being so. It's like no. We understood it. It was the person who was saying that. Like I kept saying, I wrote search warrants. I defended search warrants. And when I saw this, you said, matter of fact, you were like, the search warrant is unattackable. That's what you said. You said, I don't see, it's unattackable. It's gonna hold up. And then guess what? It held up as essentially unattackable.
I did say that.
It was the exact words.
I did say that because I'm like, well, I can't find it.
Not very sure about Viva Frei and whether or not he took place in the slandering. However, I do know that Viva Frei was going ahead and propping Nick up to the moon along with Robert Barnes, as a nose guard would, but it looks like things are crumbling in the Baldo bunker. Nothing really good is happening. People were speculating that Nick had self-deleted after all this because after all, everything has been crumbling down. I like to point out that even to the end, Nick had this narcissistic attitude about him, acting as if everything was going to go his way and how he knew more than others. And well, it ended up being the exact opposite. So again, all the things coming together just kind of would lead people to think that a regular person would self-delete. But ladies and gentlemen, Rekieta, Nick Rekieta, Nicholas Robert Rekieta is not any ordinary man. He is the rage twig. He's also a class A narcissist. And it seems like narcissists won't really self-delete. They'll try to get you to self-delete, but they themselves won't. You remember that time Nick tried for about 30 minutes to get this one Kiwi farmer to self-delete because he criticized him on the forum? If you ever need a reason as to why you shouldn't feel bad for Nick Rekieta, it's because at people's lowest points, instead of trying to help them, he tries to make them self-delete. So in my philosophy, I would return the favor tenfold. I don't know what anybody else would do, that's up to you, but from my point of view, it's like an eye for an eye, right? So that's personally why I don't care, but there were some people out there wondering. He's been awfully quiet, not really saying anything, along with Barnes and Frei. The only signs of life that came out was when Nick tried to do some slimy shit towards Sean, a potentially criminal, right? So this was regarding the Montegraph case. So, you know, on August 31st, Rekieta threatened Sean of legal mindset to, or rather potentially criminal, my mistake, to reveal messages between himself and Sean seemingly related to his decision to retract his statements about Montegraph. You guys know about Montegraph. He's the individual that ended up, well, beating Rekieta in court, or is currently beating Rekieta in court. I don't really know that much of the specifics. I know that Nick went ahead and repeatedly implied this guy was a pedophile. You know, lawyer over here decides to do this repeatedly, and he gets sued. And he's been losing pretty badly. So, again, one of the reasons why a lot of people weren't believing Robert Barnes' initial narrative that the government was out to get Nick, or the government, was because, like, well, what's Nick's, like, latest victory? He has none. The latest L, in fact, he's taken is losing the Montegraph on court. So, again, you know. But continuing on, unlike Nick, Sean has the sense to withdraw incorrect statements, which cause the law cope endless rage. Sean, like a Chad, tells him to cope, seethe, and releases whatever the fuck he likes. As you can see here, this is on Sean's channel of Potentially Criminal, and Nick texted me a screenshot as part of a bullshit intimidation tactic, just showing him that he holds no power over me. So yeah, Nick will do this, just another slimy tactic of Rekieta. he is actually more and more like Ralph. I want to say he's turning more and more like Ralph, but maybe he was always there. Like all the times that Nick was like projecting over the years, you know, acting like Eric July was Ethan Ralph, but then it turns out that Nick was Ralph all along, right? It's amazing, right? We didn't forget about the hate boners he has for Eric July. That's another thing. But this really throws into question everything Rekieta has ever said during the years, or every statement or attack he's ever had on anybody over the years. No matter how credible you thought he was at the time, chances are he wasn't credible at all. Not that people weren't already questioning his credibility from the get-go about 3 years ago, and hell, some people even longer than that. But I think that like the signs started picking up, and if you were around for the Eric July arc and you were drinking the Kool-Aid there, you might have to rewind and rethink your decision on literally everything. No matter if you hate Eric July or how much you dislike him, we can't be Rekieta and let biases affect our, well, logic, decision making, and reality, because that's what got Nick in this situation in the first place. Oh, along with some, you know, quote-unquote healthy doses of whiskey and swinging and, of course, the white stuff. But back to what Nick was doing with Sean. A lot of people think that Sean has been preventing Nick from further embarrassing himself by refusing to disclose the contents of the shower text. We're going to call these the messages that Nick sent Sean, essentially shower texts. This comes from a reference to where Nick was having this with Null and was doing this with Null and was texting Null in the freaking shower and stuff, and I mean that turned into a meme all its own. But yeah, people speculate that it's just Sean trying to still show goodwill to Nick and prevent further embarrassment. Nick, however, probably sees this as an own, because in his demented little mind, he seems to think anything he does is an own. Like, remember that one time he seeked out Josh on text messages or something and was like messaging him back and forth and was acting as if this was his epic own? Everything in those messages made Josh look good and made fucking Nick just look like a sniveling bitch. But of course, in Rekieta's mind, he thought he got the epic own, and he effectively gaslit the fuck out of his audience into believing this was the own he needed. A bunch of idiots were buying the Kool-Aid and were saying, oh, Josh Moonell, Rekieta W. We ain't getting many of those people here now because, well, how could you? The facts have always been against Nick, but people have been trying to pretend like they can't see it. Now it's been magnified tenfold because of this huge blow to his ego and also his narrative. But it does seem like Rekieta has hit his last stand and there's not much left for him. Again, Kiwifarms.net said that the next step would be a plea deal, appeal, or actual like trial and stuff. And God, I hope it is the latter of those options. Simply because if it is the latter, it's going to be freaking hilarious. We all love a couple laughs here and there, especially at Nick Rekieta's expense. But the other two options aren't really going to be much helpful, especially the plea deal offer. Nick has been berating the legal system, attacking it, spitting on it essentially, and then he's going to have to plead like a bitch. So go back on everything he's ever said once again. Not that the common person doesn't already know this, or the people that have been paying close attention. But I guess the people that have been looking at this from a surface level and trying not to get invested and trying to still enjoy Nick for whatever quote-unquote entertainment he brings other than being a general walking human garbage can that's lit on fire. Yeah, they can't really not pay attention anymore. The only thing they can do at this point is to just be as bad faith as Nick and pretend that facts aren't actually facts and that lies are facts. More specifically, the lies that come out of Rekieta's mouth. And that's the only way they can still get a quote-unquote W, and even then it'll be an internal W at best. The logic ain't logicking, pal. And it seems like it'll be Rekieta's last stand. But again, very interesting to note that all three of these individuals, Rekieta Law, Robert Barnes, and VIva Frei, have not said anything, have not taken any victory laps, and you know that if the outcome came in their favor, they would be talking about it to the fucking heavens. Oh well, better luck next time, boys. Damn it, Nick, we lost the case again. There's some people saying that this is karma for how he fucked over Vic, Vic Mignogna. And I kind of got to agree with that as well. Nick gaslit Vic Mignogna into thinking he could win an impossible lawsuit, effectively taking a bunch of money from him just to grift from the audience and con a bunch of people into supporting him over the years. When I met Rekieta Law, he was under 10,000 subscribers. The Vic Mignogna case propelled him, I believe. To be fair though, he might have had a little more than 10,000 subscribers, and it might have been some other person from Weeb Wars that had that number. But I know for damn sure Nick didn't have 100K. It was only after the Vic Mignogna case that Nick got 100K. So regardless of what came after, Vic was the original thing that propelled him. Weeb Wars was the original thing that propelled him. So how poetic is it that Nick has been duped this time around? Except the person that duped him was Robert Barnes. In this instance, Nick would be Vic, albeit a bad version of Vic, the impure version of Vic, the slimy version of Vic. Well, you get the point. And Robert Barnes would be the conning Nick Rekieta, leading Nick into a false sense of security, telling him that everything is going to be fine, that the government is out to get him. One can only think that Robert Barnes' statements were leading Nick into believing that he can boast and act as if everything was going to be fine. There's no evidence that Barnes was Nick's attorney at any point. However, the way he was making these statements and the way that Nick was endorsing him up until a certain point would have you believe that that is a healthy presumption to make, pals. Unfortunately, didn't turn out well. But ladies and gentlemen, I've gone on long enough. This has been a quick Rekieta update before we go live tomorrow night, Friday, 8:15 Central, 9:15 EST. And we don't care about those West Coast. No, it's alright. It's mainly California that we don't care for. But regardless, guys, I hope to see you there. It's gonna be plenty of laughs to be had. There's plenty of shit to go over. It's gonna be a mega show of sorts. And hell, I probably will leave this stream up. The one tomorrow, that is. Anyway, hope you guys have a great rest of your day. And remember, don't be rackets.